What's up, everybody? One Fun Guy podcast in the studio, but tonight's the Podkvlt. We got a chance to go live, so we're going to try and see what happens. I'm going to invite a friend on. It's going to be Kelly. We do the Podkvlt podcast together, but he is able to go live on TikTok now, so we are going to see what happens. We're going to do this. I'm going to see if I can find him, and if I can, I'm going to get him on, and we are going to do the Podkvlt live from TikTok. We're going to see what happens. It's going to be kind of good. So we're going to do it together. So hopefully if you guys are on and you're watching, it's going to be awesome. It's going to upload to the Podkvlt YouTube channel, which is the Podkvlt. So if you just look it up, that's what we are. So it'll be kind of cool. It'll be unique. It's our first one, so bear with us. We're gonna go in and see what happens. Go from there. Let's see what happens. We're just taking our time, guys. It's our first time doing it, so we're gonna see what happens. See if we can get on. We're gonna do it from here. See what happens and go from there. Well, just give us a minute. We're trying to figure it out. If you're on, say hi. You can chat with us. This is our first podcast that we're doing live via TikTok. Normally we do it on StreamYard to Facebook, and then I upload it to YouTube. But we're gonna what we can get into tonight. So, what's up, buddy?
Hey, I'm good. Let's see if I can get the camera going. I don't know why it's on. Why it's not on by default.
So I will say this. Sometimes. Oh, perfect. There you go.
There we go.
So I kind of gave the intro that we're doing the Podkvlt live on TikTok, seeing how it goes. I told everybody to bear with us. We're just going to see how it is and see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, no, sounds good. Rare Trash, I would love to give you a hug. Let me tell you that right now. There's nothing like a good hug. I haven't gotten one from you yet, Mark, and you seem like a bear kind of a guy.
Yeah,
that would be like a great hugger.
When we do it together, it'll be awesome.
Awesome. Janelle, wow, there's a bunch of people. Janelle, where are you from?
Yeah, I'm going to share it out.
Peyton.
So we'll try to get everybody in and involved with it, and we'll kind of go from there. We'll share it out and see what happens and see what we can get into and what fun we can have tonight. So. Yeah, it'll be pretty fun.
Yeah, and this will be fun too, because I think it's the first time we're going to try to actually play some music too, and sort of comment on that. So, Masked Misfit, awesome to see you. Should we get going right away and just see how many tunes we get through in an hour or so?
Yeah, let's do it. So, for those of you who haven't seen the Podkvlt before, every week we do it. We give a subject matter of what we're going to talk about the following week. So like a preface. So last week we decided that we were going to talk about cover songs, what our favorite covers were. So we made a playlist of stuff that we have. And as always, like most of our songs were on there. I think we had some similar, like we had bands, but different songs. But it's in the same genre. I think 8 of my picks were 8 of your picks, so I mean it's bizarre, but it is what it is. So that's so we'll get into it if you guys want to know. So do you want to start off with yours? One of yours?
Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to start with the standard. It is let's start playing it and we'll see what happens. Let me know if the sound volume or whatever is not quite right. Feedback is always a good start. Who does not like that riff, right? Hey, us two. Yeah, if you want to guess what it is, do that first before we reveal it. Yeah. I'll give you a hint that I'm from Sweden and this band is from Sweden, so I'm a little bit happy to start that up. So actually talked to this guy, this band about this cover. Okay. Because the Melvins did the same song, right? But it bugged them because Melvins got one note wrong. You know, it's like, no, we're gonna do it right. So that was one of the reasons why they did it.
I was raised by the demons. Trained to reign under.
All right, does anybody have any guess of who this is? You got it. How do you not know Kiss, right? Yeah. And it's just entombed, obviously. So. Such a good version. I think I do like the Melvins version better, but I couldn't find it on the Spotify. But there's a lot of these metal covers that are on compilations that are old and have not transferred to Spotify.
I'm the Lord of the Wasteland, a modern day man of steel.
A little bit of a fun thing too. A buddy of mine, when they had an engagement party, he's a huge Kiss fan. So I put together an industrial version. It was the first time. It was the very first time I performed on my own solo, but I played this song for him, just as a thing. So this like clanging metal and drumming. So good. Another fun thing. I forget what song it is, but and to Nick Anderson, he's a huge Kiss fan. So on a regular Entomb song, he put in the drum fill from the famous drum fill from Detroit Rock City, and people didn't notice. And he was surprised by that. So I can't for the life of me people, but they're huge Kiss fans. Alright, well, should we move on? Because I have another Entomb song. Should I play a little bit of that? Yeah, and then we'll get to yours. But just because we're on the Entombed thing. So this is a little bit more obscure. So if people know who the original artist is, you know, I'll be happily surprised. And Lorelai and Heather.
What's up, everybody?
Please let us know where you're from. That's really interesting to me to see where you guys are from. David and Leah. Hi Sylvia, where are you from? I could turn it down a little bit. Anyway, the original here is a 70s guy called Rocky Erickson, and he might be the inventor of horror rock, if you will. So, the original is pretty obscure, but this Entombed version is so damn good. I just love it. It's so heavy. Alright, if we want to move on to one of yours, should I turn this off and do you have anything lined up? So that was Night of the Vampire.
Yeah, so obviously, it's no secret, my favorite band is Pantera, right? And one of my all-time favorite covers that they did was never released on an album, per se, but they did a cover of Cold Gin with Sebastian Bach of Skid Row. And they did it on a beach somewhere. It was like, you could tell that they were on, like, the sand, and it was just a stage setup, and it was like a bunch of their friends, and they actually the guys of Pantera dressed up as Kiss. So Phil had the star, Dime had the ace, Vinny had the cat, and so they did a cover of Cold Gin. But obviously it's so hard to find because it was never put on an album. It was just, I think it was on Pantera's Three from Hell, the DVD they made. They did a cover of it. You can YouTube it and stuff like that and find it. But obviously, if I was going to take a Pantera cover, which they've done several of them. The first one to come into my mind was obviously Planet Caravan. They did it on Far Beyond Driven. It was the Black Sabbath cover, but I had to go with the favorite of mine, which is their version of Cat Scratch Fever. So, and it's just awesome because what it is.
It sounds like the original too.
Yeah,
like it's close.
So that obviously was, it popped into my head. I was like, we're going to do covers. And there's a ton of bands that you can pick, right? I mean, we could be on here for 4 hours. But as far as, obviously Pantera was, they're obviously my favorite band. So, like, I knew they did a few of them. They did a bunch of Sabbath covers. They've done some Judas Priest covers. They've done a bunch. But, like, that one just kind of like emulated because you can find it. It's relatively easy. A lot of the stuff they did was bootleg. So all the stuff that they've done was either live or, they've done it before. They covered Lynyrd Skynyrd live. They've done a bunch of stuff live. But on an album, it's hard to find. And Cat Scratch Fever was obviously one you can find. So that was, number one. And then obviously the other band, they actually made an entire album of covers, which is Guns N' Roses' The Spaghetti Incident. And they cover the Rolling Stones. They cover the New York Dolls. They cover David Bowie. They cover, all the greats, right? But as far as it goes, in my opinion, they've done a lot of good covers. But my favorite one that they've ever done was their version of Knocking on Heaven's Door. And I think it solidifies them as a band and what they've done and all the other stuff they did. But I mean, obviously GNR is GNR, right?
Right.
So it's just a great cover, right? It's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously it was a huge hit too. So yeah, testifies to its greatness, right?
And they actually, and I was telling you earlier, whenever they play live, they always incorporate Pink Floyd songs. They do a cover of Mother before they go into Paradise City. Slash does the chords to it. You know what it is. They don't play the entire song, but they kind of go into it. And then obviously as they move into their set, they cover the Rolling Stones. And one of the songs that they do is Dead Flowers, which is awesome. But it never made it to any of their albums. However, Dizzy Reed and Gilby Clarke covered it on Dizzy Reed's album, and Axl was the guest vocal. So you can find
that's close.
It's just not Guns N' Roses. So it's
close
Gilby,
enough.
Yeah, so it's Gilby Clarke, who was obviously their guitarist, after Izzy Stradlin left the band. But they do it basically as close as you can get. But Axl does do the vocals on it. So you'll obviously recognize it when he does. But this was one of my favorite covers of the Stones that technically isn't Guns N' Roses, but is Guns N' Roses, right?
Yeah.
So and you hear Axl's voice right away when he.
Yeah.
And you'll hear the wail when Axl does the chorus. You'll know for sure.
Wow. Yeah. I've never heard this though. There we go. It's pretty close to the original too,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, but it's good. It's good to hear Stones with an actual American accent too.
Right. So when they first played their acoustic set in the 90s when they were in Argentina, they brought out a couch, a love seat, and like they had this guy bring like Domino's pizzas out. And it was just them and the band sitting there. Matt Sorum had a tambourine and a bongo drum. It was Axl singing, Slash and Gilby Clarke playing the acoustic, and Duff was actually not playing bass. He was playing another guitar. So it was 3 guitars,
Okay.
drums, and that. And they covered a bunch of songs, but that was my favorite. The Stones cover was awesome. And you can, like I said, you can YouTube, Guns N' Roses acoustic or Guns N' Roses Argentina, because they did like 5 songs where they brought out the lounge furniture, and then when they were done, they took it out, they put the electric back on, and they finished the set. But they did like 8 or 9 acoustic songs, couple minutes of each, and kind of a collage of songs. So those were
Nice.
obviously the 2 bands that came to mind immediately. Were Guns N' Roses and Pantera for me. And obviously there are a ton of other heavy metal covers, obviously, that we're going to get into. But those 2 for me were like, they had to be on my list, guaranteed.
Yeah, no, it was the same with me.
What's
like
up, Beth?
Yeah. Hey Beth, how's it going? I saw that Sylvia. I don't know if she's on still or not, but she's from Kentucky, so I have something. I'm a banjo fan, so famous band for doing covers. They're not a metal band, obviously, but they do cover heavy music. So let's try this one.
If you like to gamble, I tell you I'm your man. You win some, lose some, it's all the same to me.
Yeah, there we go.
Pleasure is to play, don't make no difference what you say.
It's always the
But I don't share your greed. The only card I
called
need is the ace of spades. The ace of spades, alright. Playing for the
They started off as a novelty band, obviously, but they only did AC/DC songs. So that's where the name AC Dixie comes from, because it sounds like AC/DC.
7 or 11.
But they've done like a bunch of covers because they kind of grew up 15 years ago or so.
Devastation split.
But it's-
the
it's-
ace of
it's
spades.
funny.
The ace of spades, alright.
I dabble in banjo a little bit too. I've got a banjo back here.
For fools, but that's the way I like it, baby. I ain't gonna live it forever.
I ain't gonna live forever. Have to change. Give me a little bit more southern flavor.
So, speaking of banjo, on a different side note of everything, obviously he's done a bunch of covers in his band, and he wrote a bunch of Ozzy songs. But have you ever listened to Book of Shadows by Zakk Wylde, his earlier stuff?
No, not at all.
He does country music. And
Really?
yeah, and it is awesome. And he plays a banjo in one of the songs.
Nice.
Which is kind of ironic that you mentioned it.
See, I don't think so. Like, to me it was pretty natural, because I still think that it's fast and it's energetic, and it's got that technical thing to it. It's
Yeah.
I don't think that it's that far off. It sounds
not.
weird, but I really think that they're pretty close to it. Like, it's almost like, yeah, the hill folk. I don't mean to sound demeaning or whatever, right? But if they would have had access to loud guitars, they probably would have done that. But instead, they did the rebellious banjo thing, which still sounds pretty freaking badass to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's badassery for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome, and they do a bunch of stuff, right? Like when you do it, it's kind of like you recognize it as such a unique instrument, right? It's kind of like the fiddle. You know that it's there, like you can hear it, and it's prevalent in music, and so.
Yeah, and it's more about energy than the sort of. I mean, it's technical proficiency, but it's very much more about the energy and getting people excited, and they want to get up and stomp their feet and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I definitely think that has lots of similarities there. So I'm not surprised that I was drawn to it. It was obviously not something that I knew growing up in Sweden. Like bluegrass is not,
Right.
something you discover. So, do you have something
Yeah,
lined up?
Yeah, actually, I'll play a little clip of this real quick. I'm gonna find the song right away. See if it's if you could hear it.
Oh, so this is Zach Wild?
Zach, wow.
Yeah. Wow, that's a major Jarl going on there.
Right?
Well, that's cool. Let's see.
So he did this album called Book of Shadows, and he basically, it was kind of like a dabble into like country rock, southern rock, blues, and this was all while he was guitaring for Ozzy and was kind of like in a break. And so this was the precursor to Black Label Society. So he had the guys in the band,
okay.
and he was like, so he basically formed Black Label Society when Ozzy was kind of doing Ozzy stuff, and then he went on a glorious, solo album. But anytime Ozzy called, he was right there. So that was, and then he almost joined Guns N' Roses. I don't know if you know that story, but Axl asked him to be the guitarist. And he said, you got to tell me the tour dates, tell me what you're doing for records, and let me know. And he said, Axl drug his feet. Ozzy said, hey, I'm going on tour. Are you my guitarist, yes or no? He called Axl and said, listen, Ozzy wants me. Are we going on tour? Am I being part of Guns N' Roses? Yes or no? He said Axl didn't give him an answer. He went back to Ozzy.
All righty.
So that's how he got Buckethead instead. That's how that all worked out. So
Yeah.
but
Well,
after Slash departed, he asked Zach to be his guy, and he couldn't give him an answer. So Zach said, I go where I'm welcome, and that was Ozzy.
yeah. Well, I would say that was the right choice.
Yeah,
if you ask
it all
me.
worked out, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I thought DJ Ashba, besides Slash, did the best job, right? Of all the Guns N' Roses guitarists, he was the better of them.
Yeah, I was gone by then. So I'm not that aware of that.
Right. So.
But I just because you played this song before and because I just played Hazy Dixie, I just want to do 10 seconds of this.
Yeah.
It's one of those unfortunate things. We don't want to talk about politics, but Tim Nugent's one of those
Well,
guys.
I don't
who
know where
sucks
they come from, but they sure do come.
It's like a douche.
I hope they're coming from me. And I don't know how to do it, but they sure do it good. I hope they're doing it for free. They give me cat scratch fever. Cat scratch fever. Cat scratch
Anyway, I'll get to the
fever.
next one.
Cat
You talked about Guns N' Roses doing Pink Floyd too, but this is a Canadian band called Voivod on a really good album called Nothing Face. I had no idea when I heard this album, which is a fantastic album, that this was a Pink Floyd cover. I think it's Sid Barrett there even. But I was just a kid back then. I had no idea about, I thought Pink Floyd was The Wall, so. We're kind of getting into the symphonic metal at the time. I think this might be 90.
Olympic green, the second scene, the fights between the blue you once knew.
Later metal.
The sound resounds around the icy water underground.
Later metal, not baby metal.
Jupiter and Saturn.
Yeah, whoever saw now, let us know where you're from. It's great to be shout out.
Neptune,
love to hear it.
Titan, stars get frightened.
So, later metal, do you have any favorite metal covers, or just enjoy yourself? I've got a Spotify going on here, so if you have anything you want us to play, we can totally play it. Just put it in there, and I'll pull it up. Metallica, okay, which one? Because they also had the Garage Inc., right? That was an old cover album. So there's a bunch of Metallica covers.
Floating down, the sound resounds around the
The Whiskey in the Jar is probably the most common one, right? Oh yeah. Whiskey in the Jar, I think they did a music video for, back when music videos mattered.
And then they covered it.
Yeah. Stars get frightened.
They covered Am I Evil and they covered Attitude.
Yes, that's true. Sanitarium, that's not a cover though, right? That's a Metallica original, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Things you like.
Oh yeah, okay, so you like it. Yeah. So I think we'll table that since we're doing a cover thing, but Metallica has covered. So if you have
you can't talk about metal bands without mentioning Metallica. It's impossible.
right, Metallica isn't a favorite band of mine, but yes, Diamond Head. There we go. But lots of others have covered Metallica really well too, right? So it's one of those where they play covers, they do it well, and when they are covered, they are usually good versions. All right, should we? Let's do that.
So
Oh, sure. Sorry, go ahead.
So I was going to say, if we're going to do covers, one of the bands you had on the list with a different song, I had on the list with a different song. But since you played Pink Floyd, I'll keep it in the same vein, and I'll do this band if that's okay.
Sure, go right ahead.
All right. So this is my pick. Now, if you know the lyrics to the Pink Floyd song, you would get the song, but they did it in their own vein, but the lyrics are the same.
Really? I thought this was an original. Is this a Pink Floyd cover?
Lyrics. Listen.
The salty sweat drips from our breasts.
I'm not a lyrics guy though, so you're gonna have to help me out.
And I can hear what you're saying.
Inside of me is gonna get you, yeah. This is Pink Floyd.
Now, listen what I'm going to do. Now, you heard the lyrics, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, it's not the same background song, but I'm going to play this song and you'll know what it is when you listen to the lyrics.
Very
Are
cool.
you ready?
Yeah. And Lady Metal, I love that song too. I actually saw Typo Negative on that tour. It's one of the best shows I've ever been to. Well, I know this song.
Is there anybody in there? Just not if you can't hear me. Is there anyone home? Come on, girl. I hear you feeling down. I can't ease your pain. Get you your feet again.
I mean, it sounds similar. I don't quite get the...
Just the basic facts. Can you show me where it hurts? There is no pain you are receiving.
You're gonna have to point out to me where... Because, I mean, they have a similar vibe.
So, here, I listen to the lyrics.
Ah, there we go. Ah, okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, now I gotcha.
So they took Comfortably Numb, they twisted it
I
to their
never...
own, but the lyrics are the same.
That is new to me. I thought, oh my gosh, that's mind blowing. That's awesome. Wow. Wow. And Comfortably Numb too, you know, like.
So when you listen
Wow.
to it, when you listen to the Type O Negative, it's the same lyrics, just in a different style.
Yeah. No, totally.
So when you
So it's
hear
not a
their
cover.
version
It's
of
just
it, it's their own music, but the lyrics are the same.
It's a definite homage. Yeah. It totally fits their personality too. Like they're mischievous people. Oh, you're a lyrics girl, Sylvia? Yeah. I just don't like. I need to hear a song many, many times for me to remember the lyrics. My wife, she listens to the lyrics first by far.
So if you
know, and
so
remembers them after one listen.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're not familiar with Pink Floyd, the song "Comfortably Numb," you wouldn't realize it, but the song's called "Love You to Death," but the chorus of the song is Type O Negative, but the lyrics are "Comfortably Numb." So
it's I never realized that, but again, it's because I don't, you know, the words are sounds to go with the music to me. Unfortunately, I mean,
right. So then my next
always,
pick obviously would have been their version of "Summer Breeze."
Yes, which is great.
So, and they cover, I mean, Type O Negative had, I think, 6 or 7 covers throughout the course of their career that made it to albums and stuff like that. Obviously, you know, Cinnamon Girl, you know, Summer Breeze. But when I got the lyrics to that song, I was like, that's Comfortably Numb. And then it clicked. And I was like, I kept listening to Pink Floyd over and over. And that was, you know, so it was awesome. And that's kind of how I picked that over Summer Breeze.
Yeah, I know. And Sylvia, or Lady Metal, sorry. Yeah, Summer Breeze, Seals and Crofts. It's absolutely right. And it's so weird that Type O Negative pull it off so well. I mean, I picked Cinnamon Girl just because, I mean, I lived in Canada for over 20 years, so it's like Neil Young, Canadian, and all that stuff, right? But that's not as weird because Neil Young was heavy at times, right? You know, Hey, Hey, My, and all that stuff, right? But yeah, Summer Breeze is such it works so surprisingly well.
Yeah.
I mean, I can put it on. I think I have it here somewhere.
You know, and the thing is that like covers are unique to bands, right? Because you'll have a band cover a song that you wouldn't figure is the same, right? And then you listen to it, and it's like, that is incredibly well, right? So that's...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a good cover is when you either take a song and make it sound like
Yeah.
as if it was a song you would have written as a band,
Right.
or you just elevate it to a whole different level, and it's like, I have... See you, Sylvia. Good to have you. Return for next time. We'll be on Saturday next week.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say, as a heterosexual male, that Peter Steele has the sexiest male vocal of all time.
So, I don't know. As far as like vocals go, for me, it's hard to be Chris Cornell.
Okay.
I incredible, right? And there's every singer is good in their own way, right? There's some guys that have a weird voice, but people find it appealing. Chris Cornell did it for me. Freddie Mercury did it for me, right? Like, those are voices you can never people do. Like, they just have that octave power that nobody else has.
Yeah. So you favor the ones that can go really high. Like I actually had a bit of a problem with Chris Cornell because of his high pitched screams. That was piercing to me. But I mean, there's no denying how good of a singer he is. I mean, out of this world, how the range and power, all of that. So full props to him, right? All right. Let's try something else. Oh yeah, we're in Chicago, both of us, right?
Yeah.
So let's do a Chicago classic. So this was Howlin' Wolf that wrote this song first. Evil is Going On. So, well, I mean, he wasn't from Chicago, but he brought the Delta Blues. He was part of the founding of the Chicago Blues thing. And then in the 70s, a band called Cactus made this arrangement of it. So it's a cover. But this is Monster Magnet playing a cover of the Cactus cover of the original Howlin' Wolf song. So beautiful.
Long way from home, you can't sleep at night. Feels like another mule's kicking in my stall, and that's evil, evil. Going on, baby. Yeah, I said I'm warning you, brothers. You better watch your happy home. Watch your happy.
Early stoner rock, Oh, it's so good. I saw Monster Magnet on, I think it was this tour too, or was it the following album? But they played this and it just went nuts. It was crazy good. Okay, and what was that? Awesome. Yeah. I think he actually lives in Sweden now. He got himself a Swedish wife and lives about an hour's drive from my former hometown. Cool. What else you got? We've barely scratched the surface.
I know. So so this is a newer band, and I saw them live about 4 months ago, and I didn't know they covered this until I saw them live, and then I went back on their album and listened to it. You'll know it from a famous movie, if you know what I mean. But I'm just gonna go ahead and play it.
It doesn't come to me immediately. I'm thinking Revenge of the Nerds for some reason, but...
We're not indestructible. Baby, better get that straight.
I don't know this.
No. So it's. What I'll do is I'll play the clip of the movie, and you'll probably realize what it is.
Hey, Ashley, by the way, good to have you here. If you are here, are you here? If you are here, let us know where you're from. And
So
if you
I'll
have
see
any
if I
favorite
could-
metal covers.
If
Yeah,
I
go
could
ahead.
get it going through, I'll just play the clip of the movie, and when you see it, you'll realize it's not for everybody. It's not, but it's a pretty famous movie in terms of what it is. But
Southpaw. So it's a Rocky.
it's Stallone for the training montage in Rocky IV.
Rocky 4. Okay. Yeah. I haven't seen that one many times. I've seen it twice, maybe. Yeah.
So the original one, I think, was Vince or Nick DiCola did it as the score for the movie. But when I saw Beast in Black, they covered it, and I was like, I knew right away. I'm like, that's Rocky IV, and I didn't realize it was on their album. So when I went back and listened to it, I was like, this is awesome, right? Because Rocky was a big part of like American children's childhood. Everybody's seen Rocky, so it's like,
Yeah.
so you kind of knew it. But when Beast in Black did it, I was like, this is awesome. So I went back, and Beast in Black is awesome. I don't know if you're familiar with their work,
No.
but they're very unique because they have a Greek singer, and the other guys in the band, I believe, are Finnish, Sweden, and Denmark. I think is what they are, but they are big into anime, so they have like a Japan type vibe to them, and like they have this like weird kind of like cartoonish backdrop where it's like anime, but it says Beast in Black with like this castle and stuff. They were just awesome live, like just an incredibly talented band. And I was hooked. Like I was like, this is great. And Unleash the Archers opened for them.
Okay.
So-
That's cool. Well, it sounds a
Yeah.
little Death Clock, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, it's but they're very powerful, like power metal.
Yeah.
But they have this weird like electronic Japanese anime thing mixed in with like, so if you were to take like I don't know, a famous power metal band, let's say
Hammerfall.
Rhapsody or Hammerfall, right? And you mixed it with like 9 Inch Nails, and then you threw like Japan anime in it. That's Beast in Black.
Wow. I got to look them up more. That sounds
So,
really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so it's very
that sounds really cool.
Yeah, so they had a song called One Night in Tokyo, which was like their catchy one, but it's like electronica versus power metal, and they just blend it well. And it's very unique. So that came to mind as of recent. I was like, well, I'm going to throw them on the list. And obviously there's thousands of metal bands that cover metal songs, right? And you have, a bunch of them, and it's like, and so I'm going to do a black metal one next.
Oh, yeah, do it. Hi,
So-
Jennifer, by the way.
You want me to do it now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So
Enough of
This
the
was-
soft stuff now.
another one that came to mind. But I was like, I'm gonna put this on it just because I have to, and it's one of my favorite songs. Is an '80s hair metal too.
Okay. See, the hair metal thing, that's also lost on me a little bit.
Right.
I never got into it. Is this 18 and Alive?
You'll hear when you get the chorus, they'll click. You're like, oh yeah.
I was thinking it was Skid Row first. Black metal vocals are so hilarious.
He switches though. You'll get it when you click it, and
All
he'll
right.
stop doing that.
Oh, yeah, I know. You're gonna burn in hell. You're gonna burn in hell. Yeah. Um, oh, that's hilarious.
So that's Twisted Sisters Burn in Hell by
Yeah,
Demo.
that's hilarious.
So yeah. And on a side note, are you familiar with Pee Wee Herman?
Yes, I
So the
am.
music video that Pee Wee Herman is riding his bike through in the movie is Twisted Sisters Burn in Hell. That's the song.
Right.
So when you see it in the movie, you're like, oh, that's Pee Wee Herman. That's Burn in Hell. So it's kind of funny when you see it.
That's yeah. I didn't notice that. Yeah. That's a good movie though. I enjoyed that movie a lot, but I don't. Yeah, maybe that's one of those Easter eggs.
It is. It's very so here.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah. I did notice that. Now that I
Right.
yeah, that's awesome.
So Twisted Sisters cameo in Pee Wee Herman is
That's
Emu's cover
fantastic.
of that song.
Oh, that's so good.
So yeah.
Hey, Jaden. By the way, good to have you. Do you have any favorite metal covers? We might pull it up. In the meantime, while you might be typing, while we're on the black metal thing. So Hell Ripper, I sent this to you a little bit earlier, but
Yeah.
and it's an obscure Red Hot Chili Pepper song. So it's not one of those where oh yeah that's funny
Right.
whatever, but it's still. So I think this is on the Mother's Milk album. So I'm curious, like, what would the black metal community, have they swung so far as in like, oh, this is cool, this is fun, or is it like, no, Hill Ripper, you're not black metal, get out of here, don't call yourself that,
It's weird because heavy metal is rooted in punk music, right? Like that's where it stems from, right? So you
Yeah.
had bands in the 70s that were playing speed punk, and all the metal guys did was just tune their guitars down. So instead of it making it poppy, they just made it edgy. But you listen to basically the beginning of what they now call the garage band era of the West Coast, where you had Exodus and Slayer
Right.
and Metallica. If you listen to Show No Mercy by Slayer, it's a hard punk album. Show No Mercy is all punk. If you
Yep.
listen to it in its entirety, it's a punk album that's just heavier. They just down tune the chords, turn the bass up, put heavier drums. It's punk. I mean, Slayer started off as a punk band.
Yeah, no, and that's true. I mean, even when you go back to the definition of the first mention of black metal with Venom, right? They sounded
Yeah.
more like a punk band than anything else.
Right.
So yeah.
So I think that a lot of these artists, right? Like if they are fans of, like, for example, we'll take like a mid '70s band like the Exploited, right? You have big mohawks, you have loud guitars, you have fast riffs. All Metallica did was add on to that. All Slayer did was add on to that. It's nothing different. It's the same
Yeah.
mechanism. Play fast, play loud, play heavy. That's what it was, right? So
Yeah.
it's no secret to it, right? Like they didn't change or invent anything. They just did it heavier. It's punk music at its core. And that's what it evolved from.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Yeah, but that was the thing. Like, how can you play faster? How can you play harder? How can you play louder?
Right.
And then you could argue that it peaked at Napalm Death in '88, and then it just had to
Yeah.
go like, okay, let's try to to make it complicated, you know, like instead of just sort of, now we need to make it difficult.
You know, and I think too, even, you know, in the mid 80s, you know, when you had those kind of hardcore bands that were there, like Casket in the Bronx, and you had these, like, you know, they were doing something different than the speed metal, right? They were playing chunkier riffs, heavier riffs. Again, all bedded in punk music, right? Like, it wasn't anything out of the box. They just decided to make their chords chunkier, right? And they took kind of a you know, you mentioned it earlier, it's like the stoner metal, right? It's nothing that hadn't been done in the 70s, right? It's the same concept, right? I mean, you take the bluesier music and you just tune your guitars down and make it heavier. It's not anything that's abnormal. It's not like, wow, this, you know, reinvented the wheel. It is the wheel. It just rolls differently. It's the same root.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, to get back to the cover theme here, right? You know, that's also where, especially now in the later generations, it's like we recognize where we're coming from, you know, like all the metal bands. But we also grew up with, you know, like Peter Steele said that he liked Kraftwerk and Duran Duran and those types of things as well, right? So in that sense, it makes sense that, you know, when they have a chance to do something weird with a kind of music that doesn't really sound metal, but it's still like, we like this song, you know?
Right. And again,
so Summer Breeze.
Right. And you're a product of your own environment, right? Peter Steele would have been probably 55 now or 56, kind of the same age as like Phil Anselmo and stuff like that. But they grew up with 80s music, right? So before you had the hair metal, your early 80s music was Genesis, Phil Collins, Duran Duran, Depeche Mode. It wasn't the hair glam metal was later, right? That scene was 84, 85, 86. You still had your 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, which was the Van Halen, Aerosmith rock era. But most of the popular stuff was your techno, early techno music, right? It was 80s pop synth music.
That's true. Yeah. Hi, Izzy, by the way. I do care. But if you knew about Slayer or the first Metallica album or whatever, then you were deep in the underground. Like, it wasn't something that sort of just popped up, right? You know, so you were likely to grow up with, you know, the top 40s, and it was so much more difficult to discover anything weird. So there's no wonder, and I think that's also why, you know, the covers are freaking awesome and out of place when we hear them, but they make, you know, sense in a way. Hey, we only have 7 minutes left. Should we do one more each before we sign off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do the one we both agreed on, right?
Yes, I was just going to say that. And I think I'm guessing
every one of the top 40 records being played on every radio station in the United States is a communication to the children to take a trip, to cop out, to groove. The psychedelic jackets on the record album have their own hidden symbols and messages, as well as all the lyrics of all the top rock songs.
Right.
And they all sing the same refrain. It's fun to take a trip. Put acid in your veins.
What's this? Are we playing rave music now? So this is obviously Supernaut, Black Sabbath. The band is called 1,000 Homo DJs. No, I'm not telling this to you, Mark. You know, I'm saying this to whoever else is listening, right? There was a weird thing going on politically between labels and whatever, right? But Alan Jurgensen of Ministry and Trent Reznor, they really liked each other and wanted to collaborate on something, but they couldn't collaborate because they were on different labels. I think it was mostly Nine Inch Nails label they were notoriously evil.
As the story goes, it was Peter after that wouldn't let him do it. That was Ministry's label.
Really? Okay, because I wasn't quite sure on that, but I suspected it was Trent's label because he had tons of trouble with his label, right? But anyway, so they weren't quite really allowed to work with each other. They couldn't credit each other or whatever, right? So it's Alan Jurgensen that put the music together and then asked Trent to do the vocals. But they couldn't even credit Trent that he was doing the vocals. So Alan just said, "Oh no, it wasn't Trent. It was me. It's me singing." It's like everybody can hear that it's not, but that's how it goes. That Alan is sometimes credited with the vocals, but it's Trent doesn't. So it's one of those fun things. Like, no, we can't say that it's Ministry and Nine Inch Nails working together. We have to come up with a new name. We have to lie about a bunch of things. But it's one of the greatest covers of all time. And I've talked over all of it, so nobody's heard it.
Absolutely. All of that, right? Probably worked with more than any other musician that's out there.
And they all sing the same refrain. It's fun to take a trip. What accent you're making.
Every artist that pretty much is anybody else, right? And I said this before, and I maybe a little bit biased here, but if you were going to take one guy to make an album from start to the very writing lyrics, doing the end album of a CD in your hand, I think Trent Reznor is the only musician that's going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
and I could be wrong, right? There's other artists that can play guitar and drums and bass and sing. There's plenty of them, but as far as making an album, putting the music together, writing the lyrics, doing the production, doing the sound, figuring everything out, and making the actual album come to terms with one human being, Trent Reznor's the guy. Because I don't think, because there could be guys that can play every instrument, but they don't know how to produce the album. They don't know how to sit behind a soundboard and make an album. And then there's guys that are great technically that can do that, but they can't write a lyric. They don't know how to play instruments. So to have one guy in the history of music to say start to finish from a piece of paper to a CD, Trent Reznor is the guy. I don't think there's anybody else.
Yeah. And, you could maybe argue that he kind of killed the industrial scene a little bit, or at least took the breath out of it by releasing the Downward Spiral, which is exactly what you're saying. Like, here's one guy that's basically created a perfect album in terms of a genre, and other people are like, I can't beat this.
Right. And that's the thing, right? And Trent tours with bands, right? Like, Richard Patrick from Filter was his guitarist. You had a bunch of guys throughout the career. Kim Tail played with him, and a bunch of other guys, and he had different musicians with him. But start to finish, all he needed was himself and a laptop, and he was able to create albums that are iconic, right? And it was him. He played every instrument. He mixed the album. He did all the sound. He engineered it. He brought it to life, and he made a CD, and it was him. He's the only musician on that album.
Yeah. And that's one glaring omission that neither one of us put on there, because it felt a little cheap or whatever, and it doesn't feel metal so much. And it's the obviously the Johnny Cash version of Hurt. But I totally agree. And
again,
total
it
genius.
could be said. Yeah, it could be said for, I think, there's probably now other artists that can do it, right? Like, there's guys that have gone into the studio and are able to mix an album, like Selly comes to mind, right? He, with Godsmack, he can play every instrument. He drums, he guitars, pianos. He can do all the audio stuff. But Trent Reznor was the guy that was able to do that from nothing, right? Like, he was able to sound an album before you had studio mass production. You were still in there with reels of tape, starting and stopping songs and making them flow together, and then using the electro sound of instruments with a keyboard and the synth with actual instruments. He was the guy. I mean, I don't know if anybody else at that time would have been able to do that.
Yeah, no, not at the time, but nowadays you kind of have to, right? That's what I'm trying to do. So when I'm making music, right, I have to play it all myself, and I have to mix and master it and try to get it all together. But I wasn't there in '92 to do that.
So so the software has gotten better, right? Like you can basically create an album on your laptop. You don't need a studio anymore. But back in the day, you needed that, right? You needed a soundboard, you needed the audio, you needed the equalizer, you needed to make sure that everything was
expensive shit.
He was the guy, right? And so I don't think there's any arguing any that. And what Nine Inch Nails did is incredible, right? In the music scene, and and
set a standard for sure.
Yeah.
And it'll be so cool to see the next Tron just for that. And we talked about that a couple of episodes ago. So we'll get into that. We are at 8:30. I promised you that we do a hard stop because you have another podcast coming up. So people promote that, by the way, buddy.
Yeah. So obviously the One Fun Guy podcast, we're talking horror tonight. It's my first ever group podcast. So it's me and four other people. So I'm weirded out a little bit. Like, we did a trial run. You hopped on and helped us out to figure it out, right? But I've never done it, so I don't know how it's going to be. I'm kind of nervous, but I'm excited. And then my thought process was that next month I would have 4 different people. And then the next month I would have 4 different people. And then I would try to intertwine them. So 2 people that have never met versus 2 people that have never met now meet for the first time on my podcast to talk about horror movies. So that's my goal.
That's really interesting. And that starts in a half hour, right?
Yeah, so that'll be at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time.
All right. So people on here, go check that out.
So the Podkvlt is alive and well. So what we can do is we have 2 options, right? We do the StreamYard thing, and we can kind of embed that. This, I think, hits a wider audience, right? You get a lot more interaction personally. So we can stay here on this platform, and then what I'll do is I'll download this and I'll upload it right to the Podkvlt YouTube page. So we'll plug that in our live, and then our next week on TikTok, we can just use this platform to promote what we're doing on the Podkvlt on the YouTube channel. Obviously, we have a Facebook and Instagram page, but I think this, because I'm able to download it and upload it to YouTube, I think this maybe could be our new platform if you want to continue on this. We'll see what happens, right?
I think that's great. And anyone that's watching now or later or whatever, please go to the YouTube channel. So it's, what's the URL again?
So if you type in YouTube, the Podkvlt, we pop up, but our official handle is the Podkvlt -X20. And they did that for whatever reason. It's YouTube via YouTube, but it's X20. But if you type in the Podkvlt, we pop up. Our logo's up there. All our stuff is on there. All our lives are up there. This will go up there. We'll basically use this platform to promote it. And then obviously from that point on, you have this on YouTube. I'll send you the link. You can put it wherever you want. So we can promote it on Facebook and Instagram as well. But I like this platform because of the music, right? You don't get the violations. Because if we did this on YouTube, we did.
Yeah, probably.
So this is easier. Play music,
go China,
have fun, interact, right? So this might be it. So this might be the Podkvlt platform that we go on from here on out. So we'll definitely promote it hard. We'll take clips from this thing. We'll start sharing it out, and then we'll get all our friends to hop on, and then we'll just kind of commingle this on TikTok, and this will be our platform then.
Yeah, sounds good. And we need to put some letters up top here, perhaps, to have the spelling right.
Yeah, so we'll definitely do that. So that'll be awesome, and we'll go from there, and then maybe we can kind of maybe do a teaser during the week if you want to hop on for a couple minutes, maybe like on a Wednesday or Thursday. We can kind of talk about what we're going to do that following week. We didn't have a subject for next week, so we can continue on with the covers and kind of finish it. Next week we have an unlimited time, so we got.
There we go.
4 or 5, however many hours.
We'll have a 4-hour session.
So we'll continue on with the covers, and whatever we think about this week, we'll add on from that. So
yeah, sounds great.
Awesome.
Anyway, thank you everybody for watching. It's been a great time, and we'll see you next week. And thank you, Mark, for.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you next Saturday, or maybe a teaser during the week. We'll see. We'll hop on and maybe do an impromptu couple minutes of what we got going on.
Sounds good.
So, All right, buddy. We'll see you next Saturday. And guys, check out the Podkvlt on YouTube. It's PODKVLT X2O. But if you type in the Podkvlt, PODKVLT, you'll find us. So everybody stay metal, stay hard rock, stay punk. We'll see you next week.